In a recent video on Frederick Douglass, I explained that he was one of several American abolitionists who gave speeches in Greater Manchester, and that some made the region their home. One of these abolitionists was James Watkins. In 1851 he escaped slavery and fled to England. He was followed to England by his wife, Mary Eliza, who, due to ill health, returned soon after. In 1852 he published Narrative of the Life of James Watkins, printed by Kenyon and Abbott of Market Street, Bolton. On page 41 he writes, "I left Liverpool for Manchester, and I found a great number of earnest sympathizers in the cause of the abolition of slavery. I had many opportunities of spreading information on the condition of my suffering brethren, and also on the nature and operations of the fugitive slave law. In addition to these, my way opened and my courage increased so far as actually to enable me to attempt the delivery of an address or lecture on slavery." Watkins lived for some time with the Abbotts in Bolton before moving to Birmingham, then settling in Manchester. On page 44 he wrote, "While in Bolton I was introduced by Mr. Wright to Mr. and Mrs. Abbott and family, a kindness for which I can never be too grateful, for I here found a home of the best description, and in Mrs. Abbott a mother, at whose fireside I have received many lessons, useful both for time and eternity. I very soon resolved on making Bolton my headquarters while I remained in Lancashire, and arranged accordingly." He delivered a series of lectures on the abolition of slavery in America. He would often display the tools used to keep slaves captive and to punish those that tried to escape. Over 100 of his lectures were given in Greater Manchester. Around 30 were in the city itself and dozens more in the surrounding boroughs of Bolton, Bury, and Rochdale, including the town's public hall in 1852 where Frederick Douglass spoke to a crowd of over 1,000 people 6 years earlier. He also lectured in Oldham. One lecture was at the Mechanics' Institute in Saddleworth in 1861. They were also delivered in Salford, Stockport, Trafford, Wigan, and my home borough of Tameside, where he lectured 7 times, including at the Wesleyan Chapel, Droylsden, in 1855, a building that stands to this day. In his Narrative of the Life of James Watkins he acknowledges over 20 people across Greater Manchester who presided over meetings held by him. In 1859 Watkins released poems, original and selected, and in 1860 he published Struggles for Freedom, or The Life of James Watkins, formerly a slave in Maryland, U.S., printed by Haywoods of Oldham Street, Manchester. It lists over 100 people across Greater Manchester who presided over meetings held by him. The 1861 census listed him as living in Manchester at 73 Piccadilly, where the Piccadilly Tavern is now situated. His profession was listed as lecturer on slavery, boarding with a basket manufacturer, James Skinner. By the 1880s, Watkins had returned to America and is documented in the 1880 census for Baltimore, Maryland. Not much is known of his life after this nor when he died. In 1854 Watkins used some of the money he had raised from his book sales and lectures to free 6 enslaved people, including 2 sisters and a brother. In total he delivered over 500 lectures in the UK and Ireland. He is thought to be one of 4 sculpted heads above the upper windows of the Providence Food Hall on Market Street in Westhoughton in the borough of Bolton. 2 of the others are thought to be his wife, Mary Eliza Watkins, and the anti-slavery protester, Elizabeth Abbott, whose family Watkins lived with, and he thanked in his 1860 book. The building was originally built as a cooperative store, and during the 1860s the Cooperative Society showed strong support for the anti-slavery movement in the U.S.